It is Monday, the 6th of the 10th, 2025. The time is 12 minutes past 8, and that means one thing and one thing only, that there are very many F1 centric threads at which we need to pull. Mohammed Ben Sulayem investigation. What could this mean for the future of his presidency, an unopposed presidency, given the elections in December going forward? Racing Bulls offer to take them over. Charles Leclerc, fire-breathing dragon, fuming at Scuderia Ferrari. Lyco, always. What's that all about? And so too, we'll talk about Oscar Piastri and the ramifications of the chaos that is the papaya-coloured team and their papaya rules. Sir Charles Edward, you're an absolute legend. Is cheese in the building? You bet your bottom dollar he is. Nando is going to get techie over the next 30 to 40 minutes, as it always does. What's going on, Issa? John, listen, we've got to talk about a gazillion things, so I should not hesitate. In the first instance, Mohammed Ben Sulayem, there is a presidential election, we know, in December of this year, but apparently the presidential list in South America dictates that there has one name on it, and his name is Mohammed Ben Sulayem, meaning therefore, in effect, Mohammed Ben Sulayem will run unopposed in December. However, Joe Sayward, our old mate Joe, for the avoidance of doubt, all F1 journals are created equally, but some are created more equal than others. Joe Sayward has been writing for the past couple of weeks in his God Tier newsletter that something's brewing in the background as far as MBS and his presidency. We know already that Mohammed Ben Sulayem likes to fly on his private jet, all the while talking all of this gubbins about sustainability. What are you doing? Expensing it shortly thereafter to who? To the FIA. I can't stand McLaren. They're pathetic. We're going to get into them, Liv. I promise you. They are pathetic for a gazillion reasons. And I will get into it. We'll diatribe for it because it's important here. Everybody's turned on McLaren, the papaya-coloured team, and their bloody rules, but we'll get to it, Liam, I promise. Far too kind. First instance, though, let's talk about this presidential stuff, because Mohammed Ben Sulayem hasn't been conducted himself very well, has he, Crackosaurus? You know what I mean? He's not been, let's say he's not been the beacon of being presidential, as you would expect from a president superseding one Jean Todt. Jean Todt was a legend. You know what I mean? Of course, he wanted people to obey him. He wanted people to play nice, but yet and still his overarching modus operandi was to do his job, fulfill his mandate, deliver, therefore, upon it. What does that look like, John K? You a legend. Put some respect on camera. It's going to get, I'm telling you, John K, it's going to get proper techie. So John Perry in the house. Tickle the like button, folks. Here's what you need to know. Jean Todt only wanted to do one job. That was fulfill his strategic objective, his mandate. What did that look like? Well, it meant fulfilling the rules, instituting for them in a way that's true and fair, representative across all parties, in a way that's consistent. Mohammed Ben Sulayem, since he's been in 2022, has done nothing but the bloody opposite. I wouldn't mind all of the keying with drivers and all of the attention-seeking ways if indeed he was doing his job. Bill Belichick settings, instituting for the rules in a way that's true and fair across all related parties. Checo Perez last year and bloody Lando Norris, they both full started and they didn't even know because the transponders weren't working. As near as makes no difference, every single race there is some sort of dodgy call. Even this Grand Prix just gone at Singapore. I mean, what, you're telling me you're not even going to reprimand Lando Norris? Why? I don't want to talk about the corruption and the affiliate to DP World and who wants Lando Norris to win most. We'll get to that, I promise. But yeah, and still, if Mohammed Ben Sulayem were doing his job, Bill Belichick settings, we wouldn't have a conversation to have. However, on top of that, you have the keying, the attention seeking, the jet setting around the world on a PJ and expensing that all to the FIA. You have the comments, the sound bites, we're not rappers, jewelry gate. You have him saying that I don't like women that think they're smarter than men. Yeah, because that's an intelligent thing to say in 2025, is it not? All the while he's saying he doesn't want to impose his own beliefs on the system, the weird and wacky world that is F1. Surely those two sentences, Mohammed Ben Sulayem, are diametrically opposed, a contradiction in terms per se. And that's where it gets techie. All of the F1 bosses allegedly up and down the grid want this dude to go away, but the optics of deposing him, dethroning him in real time look too bad for Formula One. So they're keen to let him go there. Just let him go away. Hopefully just go radio silence, mate, and you can do whatever you want. You want to turn a profit over at the FIA? Fine. Leave us alone, lest you want us to amend for the Concord Agreement, which, by the way, is being negotiated. Now, there are several tenets of the Concord Agreement. The only one that hasn't been ticked is the regulatory piece. All of the business, the commercial, all of the sporting that's all been written, enshrined, crystallized already in the Concord Agreement that will soon be announced. The only one that's pending is the FIA bit. It's techie. Than techie things. Joe Saward has been talking about an investigation going on in the background into Mohammed bin Sulayem's behaviour and activities over the past few months, and now he's leaked it, what it pertains to, and who is doing it. Joe Saward writes, I've got to read this out verbatim because one needs to be precise with one's language. There is one other thing, says Joe Saward, that should be taken into account. As reported in previous Joe Saward business newsletters, there is still believed to be some kind of investigation going on into the president's activities. Might this be pertaining to DP World, who sponsor McLaren? Might this be pertaining to the expediting of Cadillac F1's entry into F1 and associated commercial activities? Who knows? The investigation, says Joe Saward, is being conducted by a US agency called Guidepost Solutions, which employs former federal prosecutors, intelligence officers, and special agents from agencies such as the CIA, the FBI, DHS, DEA, and US Secret Services. That doesn't sound like something to be messed about with, if I'm honest with you. That sounds very serious. That sounds like an entity, an organization, that if they want to find something on somebody, they will find it then. Saward continues, the goal appears to be to discover if there is anything to report. Such reports are widely expensive, and Joe Saward understands that they were still not able to discover who is behind this investigation. Joe Saward's newsletter understands that if anything is found, the dossier would be presented to none other than the US Department of Justice, which can take action if it sees fit. It should be remembered that 10 years ago, when the DOJ went after the FIFA, the football organisation, the International Football Federation, which resulted in a number of officials being indicted and changes being made to the federation. This might be a bit of a nothing burger at the end of the day, but Joe Saward has multiple reliable and informed sources that indicate that this investigation is taking place in the background. You bet your bottom dollar it is. Let's go. Finally, look, and there's so many things they need to pick out. If they're doing a thorough investigation, how come he sacked off those people that are meant to be the audit commission? How can you be an institution like the FIA in charge of robust governance and not submit yourself to robust governance as far as your conduct and behaviour? There was one institution set to do that, and you disbanded that. What do we do? Honestly, I can't even. My blood pressure's far too high, chat, to go through the Mohammed bin Sulayem scorched earth. Now, I just can't do it. Been there, done that. I can't do it again. Here's hoping. Well, we'll see. December are the elections. Let's see if these investigations going on in the background, allegedly per Joe Saward, yield any returns. Oh, and by the way, there's a Racing Bulls offer again per Joe Saward. Look, context is this. F1 is doing bits right. $100 US dollars currently on the Nasdaq exchange. The business that is Formula One is doing this. Everybody wants a piece because of first-hand evidence. Yes, in the first instance, it was Drive to Survive, and now we are in the Drive to Survive era. Of course, it was COVID by dint of the fact that F1 was only one of the only international sports franchises that was still able to put on live events through COVID, Dana White's UFC being another. Because of that, and 2021, Verstappen versus Lewis Hamilton, because of all of the aforementioned, the symbiosis The net effect of that has been to do one of these as far as attention. Dollars, the fabled 18 to 35 demographic has been all over Formula One. And here's why that's important. Because Joe Saywood writes that Racing Bulls have received an offer to purchase, to acquire them. Now, a couple of years ago, Formula One teams would have been biting off people's hands to sell up. But now that Formula One's doing one of these, all the teams are like, hang on, I'm not selling anything. This is not the time to sell. This is the time, if anything, to buy. This, therefore, is a seller's market. Racing Bulls declined the offer, an offer of 2.3 billion from investors wanting to purchase the Racing Bulls F1 team. It's not the first time, writes Saywood, that Red Bull has been offered serious money for its second team, with our sources suggesting that the Austrian drinks company is getting about one offer a month, the previous offer being 2 billion. Everybody therefore wants a slice of the Formula One pie. It's not going anywhere. It's doing one of these. Market analysts speculate that in a couple of years' time, F1, the listed entity that is F1, now 104 US dollars even, will be worth something to the tune of $140. It's going to get chaotic over here. And why? Of course, we've had the conversation already as I drop my bloody pen. We've had the conversation already about the weird and wacky world that is F1 and what's fueling it. 2026 brings uncertainty and stakes. You've got a swathe of young, hungry lions who are going to compete against one another now, just as Prost and Senna and Piquet and Mansell and Berger did and Lauda did back in the day. Now it's Max's time. Now it's Sir, excuse me, it was Sir Lewis's time. Sir Lewis has got a couple of years left in him yet. And with that comes star quality, of course. It will soon be King George Russell of Kings Lynn's Norfolk's time. Lando is in there. OJP is in there. Charles Leclerc is in there. Some are saying that the current grid might be one of the most competitive and talented that we've ever potentially seen in F1. So in 2026, in a hypothetical world, he's hoping that we get equal-ish machinery across the board and convergent settings, just like we've had this year in the final rule and reg set. Begs the question, sometimes you just extend the rules one more year. FIA surely, if we're going to get nice close racing like we're getting now. But I digress. In other news, Christian Horner. You know there was something going on in the background as far as Christian Horner's allegation gate, coercive misconduct. Well, there was rumour per non-UK publications. Again, all F1 publications are created equally, but some are created more equal than others. There were non-UK publications talking about this, saying that there were criminal proceedings set out, instigated by the accuser in the Christian Horner equation. Now, however, the Mail has written the following. An unnamed woman at the centre, unnamed they say, well, we know her name and we've seen her in the paddock, but I digress. The unnamed woman at the centre of the Christian Horner scandal has been paid 3 million Great British pounds to leave Red Bull, according to sources connected to the team. Chaos. That's chaos. Isn't this old news? I thought we were talking about a settlement. The employee, whose identity is protected by legal anonymity, has agreed to move on and drop her allegations in return for a fee. Are these the common law allegations? This article is written very poorly, because we understand per non-UK publications that there were criminal proceedings going on in UK courts about which no UK publications can speak, allegedly. I thought this article was full stop new paragraph, that Christian Horner was in the clear, ready to go across the new pastures. Pastures are new, mention no names, Aston Martin, reuniting potentially with one Adrian Newey, and potentially shortly thereafter 4 soon to be 5-time champion, one Maximilian Verstappen, 3 million quid. Can you imagine, cracker sauce? That's how much she got paid off. No, 3 million is not a nothing burger. So John saying McLaren is letting Oscar dictate. We'll talk about this, Easy G. I promise you we will talk about this. Go on then, let's get into some Oscar Piastri stuff, because you guys did it. In fact, let me show you this first, because this is important. If we're talking about Scuderia Ferrari, I need to show you guys this. Lewis Hamilton in the first instance was seen on Instagram jibing Fernando Alonso. Towards the end of the race, Fernando Alonso was like, I can't believe it. I can't believe it. Why would they let him get away with this? He can't just cut corners to keep position. Ultimately for that, one Sir Lewis, Carl Davis and Hamilton got a 5-second place, 5-second penalty, not a grid penalty, a 5-second penalty, which saw him demoted beyond Fernando Alonso, quite rightfully probably. But what are you going to do if you haven't got any brakes on a red car with a yellow badge and black prancing horse atop? Is what Sir Lewis Hamilton was saying. Lewis Hamilton cut back and he posted a jibing video. I can't believe it. Victor Meldrew settings. What are you doing, Fernando Alonso? Those two have never been friends, nor will they ever be friends, Fernando and Lewis, since in Fernando's mind, he will forever blame Sir Lewis for steering his career off piste. He was meant to be McLaren's guy 2007, but Sir Lewis Hamilton, a brand new rookie with extensive tyre experience, came in and put paid to all that. And if we're talking about Ferrari, did you guys hear Charles Leclerc fuming over the radio when Ferrari, his engineer Brian Bosey, kept asking him to LICO, lift and coast? What are we doing here, Ferrari? They're two of the best drivers on the grid, and all you're asking them to do is drive around the multitudinous foibles of the mechanical and aerodynamic variety. What are you doing? Give them a car and let them drive it then. I'm sick and tired as far as Ferrari are concerned, hearing about all this ride height nonsense. What are we talking about? You've designed yourself a car like Mercedes W13 that only operates, well, one of 365 days a year. That's not good enough, is it? Really? Is that where we are? We're just going to waste away the final years of Sir Lewis and waste away the prime years of Charles Leclerc. For what? At the altar of incompetence. When you hear this, it's painful, chat, but I've got to play it for you because it rams it home. Sounds like I'm talking, like I'm embellishing, do you know what I mean? Exaggerating. But forget that. Listen to this. Roll the clip.
LICO turn 14 and 16, next two corners. Cut the peak and LICO. Rear left this temp hot. So rear left this too hot. We need to remove some braking energy and bring it back down. Rear left. Keep doing this.
Is there a problem?
Yes, we had a rear disc imbalance. You have recovered most of it now. Keep doing it. And then we go back normal.
Better?
Yes, it is.
Tell me when I can push again. I'm losing a lot of time though.
Okay, stop. Picking up the pace. Now, gradually pick up the pace. Just keep some mild LICO. That prevents the imbalance. Keep doing some LICO.
I can't continue to listen to it. I can't cope. Towards the end, Charles Leclerc just loses his mind and he's like, what do you want me to do? 200 metres of this track. You're telling me to lift and coast? What are we doing here? Jixie, you're a legend. It's poetry. Ferrari has been cutting corners for a while now. Just ask Sir Lewis. I mean, it's a joke. Listen to Charles Leclerc lose his mind in the end. Check this out.
20 metres. So rear disc imbalance has increased again. Try to cool down rear disc. We need to keep doing the LICO, please.
Don't even complain. For fuck's sake, we are doing 200 meters like all the time.
Fair play to Charles Leclerc. That's chaos. That's now insidious, damaging to the legacy and the prime of Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc respectively. It's not acceptable, is it really? Scuderia Ferrari, Enzo Ferrari be turning in his grave. You've heard Montezemolo, and we all thought he was exaggerating, saying that Ferrari have been the benefactors of zero leadership for as near as makes no difference 5 years. That has nobody been there. Team principal, that Bonotto was the guy, but then they got rid of him. That they're not singing from the same hymn sheet. They haven't been for the longest time, and I concur, Montezemolo. That is chaos. Look, and what Ferrari definitely don't want, I mean, they would love to do the full seeming thing and pretend, put on their masquerade masks and pretend like everything's okay, but it's not. And you can hear it in Charles Leclerc's voice. He's lost his mind there. He's pulling out his hair, sick and tired now that his prime is being wasted at the altar of ineptitude PLC. Come on, Scuderia, you've got to do better than what you're doing. Build yourselves and your team, your drivers a car then going into 2026. I hope that's why. I hope they don't go and do what Mercedes did in 2021, which was, of course, to divest out of the current year car and then flop, fail yet again, seize defeat from the jaws of design philosophy victory in the succeeding years. That's what Mercedes is. I desperately hope that Ferrari don't do that next year, because they're sacrificing 2025 now at the altar of 2026. Going to get techie. Horner to Ferrari. I don't think Horner will go to Ferrari space. I think Horner's most likely, again, this is Joe Saber talking more than me, more than likely it's Aston Martin, Alpine. Take your pick, which one of those. It won't be Cadillac. They've said that they don't want him. It will not be Haas. Gene Haas is far too stingy. It will be one of Aston Martin or Alpine. But again, according to Andy Cowell, keen to pop the Aston Martin rumour balloon. He said that Christian Horner's phoning every team principal up and down the grid, right? What is the noise for 2026 coming out of Ferrari? That they're going risky. That's the noise. I haven't heard too much. The power unit sounds good. It sounds like Mercedes and Scuderia Ferrari have got the jump on the rest as far as their power unit. Mercedes power unit, aero and sustainable fuel, but power unit by itself, it would be Scuderia Ferrari and Mercedes. Montezemolo is an expert in messing up and everything. But they rate, I mean, Chris Harrison, Manish Pandey have just brought out this documentary, haven't they? Seeing Red. And they've got loads of praise for him. Had so you're an absolute legend. Facts not being said. Horner wants to go where he can call the shots. I think Horner wants to go, to be more precise with our language, Horner wants to go where he can get equity, because that's how his tenure at Red Bull ultimately came to an end, is it not? So first order priority for Christian will always be, each and every single time, equity as far as his next step. Oh, and by the way, we must talk about Oscar Piastri again. Now, I know some of you guys know this already, but I've got to set the table accordingly, the contextual table, because this thing is going off now. It's getting very, very chaotic, and I empathise. I felt to myself yesterday that we were seeing the culmination. Oscar feels now aggrieved, but he wasn't. This isn't McLaren are serial killers in this sense, right? This wasn't a one-off instance. It's been happening all season long, and my very noddy memory had forgotten, but there's a guy on F1 Reddit who's diatribed for it. He's gone deep, proper deep dive settings, and he's listed in that. We're going to go, I have to go through them, but let me set the context as follows so you guys remember. I know we went through some of these things yesterday, but this is important. Yesterday there was a collision between Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris. You will recall that the papaya rules are the only rules that the two drivers at McLaren need to abide by. They sound something like this. Roll the clip.
Being a lot more made out about papaya rules than what there actually is. It is literally one rule, which is don't crash into each other. I think, we've always been very open about how we go racing, and I think, trying to not spring any surprises on us as drivers. That's been the biggest thing, because that's where things become difficult when you don't expect something to happen. There's been a lot more made out about papaya rules than what there actually is. It is literally one rule, which is don't crash into each other. I think, we've always been very open about how we go racing, and I think, trying to not spring any surprises on us as drivers. That's been...
Oh, it's too painful. It's too painful. Watching this against the backdrop of what happened yesterday at the Singapore Grand Prix, the collision, sloppy collision, not malicious, but a collision nevertheless, between Lando, caused by Lando Norris. It's painful hearing Oscar talk this way, right? No surprises, no touching, no collisions, and it's been that way apparently all season long. So when Lando does it, why is Zach Brown coming out and talking about, oh, that's very clean racing? And if you don't believe me, this is important, chat. This is really, really important. Let me give you the context, because again, the guys and girls, the legendary ones over on Reddit, they've gone and done a research for us, because Oscar fans will be fuming all around the world, not just because of Singapore, but because there's been a build-up. They will now feel aggrieved, and quite rightfully so, because when you go back to round one in Australia, do you remember as soon as the track dried, Oscar Piastri wanted to have a cheeky nibble at Lando Norris's teammate at his home track and was told hold position by his race engineer Tom Stollard. So surely we need to be consistent McLaren, because later on in the season, anytime that Lando wants to have a nibble at Oscar, I've yet to hear the hold station raid over the team radio yet again. That's Australia, so bank that as Exhibit A. Monaco, Lando was saying, where is Oscar? I'm going to need him to put some pressure on Charles Leclerc. That's your Exhibit B. Canada, brand new suspension fit on Lando Norris's car because he wanted more feedback through the steering wheel. So too, he wanted to minimise for the rate that the car understeers. Doesn't like it. Can't optimise for his car when he has that. That's your Exhibit C and D. Your Exhibit E and F. Oscar, Austria. Do you remember when he nearly collected Lando Norris trying an overtaking manoeuvre? That's not papaya rules, he was told immediately over the radio. Where was that call at the Singapore Grand Prix? Silverstone, Oscar Piastri was given a harsh penalty. Nothing to see here. No, not even a breath about inverting for the injustice that was the harsh penalty when the safety car light was late going out and Oscar had to jump on the brake. That's Silverstone. That's your Exhibit E, F, G, H. Here we go. Belgium. One stop Lando. Lando was free to attack shortly thereafter. Where was the hold station command that they issued in Australia? Hungary, similar thing. Lando bottle job start to Lando Norris. Again, what forces the one stop and wins the bloody race? Where was the no? You just can't even. And then you get Monza, as if that's not enough chat again. I'm going to lay it out for you guys because it's really important, this. You just can't even. It's bonkers, Jigsaw. Here's the question. Do sponsors MasterCard sign on because of Lando? I will get to that. I tell you, Jigsaw, you've hit upon that question is a good one there, mate, because there is always business. Follow the money and you will understand the causation, right? And I think Lando's marketability has something to do with this here. Zach Brown being of commercial mind. He's the one who gets all of Google's and the OKX and all of these big sponsors, the title ones, the multi-million pound ones to write the checks. So Zach Brown will be aware which one of his drivers is the most marketable now. But let me say out of that, this is important. It gets worse. So we've gone for Australia, Monaco, Canada, Austria, Austrian Grand Prix, Silverstone, Belgium, Hungary, Monza. Do you remember this? I remember in quali when they got on the blower to Oscar and said, Oscar, Lando's made a mistake here. Can you hold up and give him a toe so that Lando Norris can get through to Q3? What? What do we do? You cannot write this SH1T. Can you chill out, yeah, and make sure the only other person apart from Maximilian Verstappen that can get to you still in the Drivers' Championship? Can you make sure? Can you help them? Can you help them get through to Q? What are we doing here? Can you spell self-sabotage? Why would you even ask that? Again, we're presenting all of the exhibits, and then in the race, as if you could get any worse. In the race, Lando Norris, cheeky 5.9 second pit stop, yeah. Invert Oscar. Oh, the humanity. And as if it can get any worse, then you get Singapore. Lando Norris breaks the only rule that both Lando and Oscar need to abide by. Don't touch. No collisions. No coming together. No crashes for the second time, by the way. Canada, big DNF. Nearly writes off Oscar. Second time round, Singapore, similar thing. Nearly in a different world, a parallel dimension. Oscar could have been written off into the barrier. So what did they say over the radio? Nothing. Zero communication. The only word that you get out of Zach Brown post-race is that was clean racing. Where? How? Which part of that Zach Brown was clean racing, sir? Listen, tell me that there is bias and favouritism without telling me there's bias and favouritism. Is a good line, that, lazy. Theory of relativity. Don't forget 1978. I just don't understand what we're doing. He hasn't needed help. Yeah, but what? But they're giving it to. This isn't me. I'm not killing Lando here, Easy G. I don't want to defame Lando. I think he was a bit. I didn't like the way he answered some of the questions post-race, but he was brilliant as a peddler. You know that if you're good, if you're brilliant in a race car, if you perform up to potential, I've got nothing to say bad against you. But the way that McLaren, I mean, you've seen Exhibit A, B, C, D, E, F and G. Now, Easy G. Like, what are we doing? Oh, hold your horses there, Oscar, because what we want for you to do, Lando's struggling to get through to Q3. I know you're competing with him for the Drivers' Championship, but could you just do you mind just enabling him, offsetting his mistake of the unforced for what? Like, you can't even write it. So, John, you're a legend. Now we have it, the nuts and bolts of it, Cameron. Cash rules everything. If OJP wants it, he will have to take it. I think that's where we're going with this, Sir John. I genuinely think that's where we're going. So go on then. Here's where we are. This is important. We'll recap because, again, that's prior to Singapore. All of those bits and bobs where it's Monaco, Lando saying, "No, I'm going to need Oscar to challenge, to put some pressure on Charles," or whether it's Monza. "Oh, can you do me a favour, Oscar? Could you Lando's made a cheeky mistake in Q2. Do you mind helping him and giving him a toe to make sure your only rival in the championship can get through to Q3? What are we doing here?" Hungary, bad stop, forces the one stop on Lando, and then it ultimately wins. Belgium, Lando's breathing, a fire-breathing dragon, breathing down Oscar's neck. No hold station command like there was at Australia. So what are we doing here? It's important here. If we're playing consistency games, then let's play consistency games, or else just tell the truth and curse the devil, because here's the culmination of it. What happened yesterday at Singapore, this is what happened. Oscar Piastri nearly gets yeeted into the barrier by Lando, an over-eager Lando, but a racing driver Lando. Easy G, I will give you that, sir. I don't begrudge Lando making that move. If you no longer go for, if there is a gap as a racing driver and you no longer go for a gap, then you are no longer a racing driver. I understand. I know Lando tried to regurgitate that somehow. Cameron is milking it. It's a lot. BJS, you don't need to be here, chap. Don't let me keep you under duress. Life is far too short. BJS, but I'm not milking it. The reason why I'm not milking it, because there will be a payoff in a couple of minutes. There's a reason why I'm going back through this. It's important, BJS, for the championship and the rules of engagement going forward. BJS, when Oscar rocks up at the next Grand Prix in Kota and he's a fire-breathing dragon proper with claws and elbows out, don't say you were not warned. BJS talking about milking. Here's why it's important. This is what happened in the race yesterday.
Stewards, as a team, we can see Lando has to avoid Verstappen, so we won't take any action during the race. We can review further afterwards.
Hey, that's not fair. I'm sorry, that's not fair.
Of course not.
Oscar will have the opportunity to review together afterwards. Focus on this race, mate. We can still have a good result here.
Yeah, but if he has to avoid another car by crashing into his teammate, then that's a pretty good job of avoiding.
Touche, Oscar Piastri. If he has to avoid another car and does so by crashing into his teammate, then that's not a very good job, is it, Tom Stollard, of avoiding action? And then you get this. You can hear them saying, "Oscar, listen, this isn't just me, BJS. There is a swathe now of sentiment, all pointing in the same direction." Go on then. Have a look at this. Do you remember this? Where is Oscar? This is Monaco, by the way. Where is Oscar? I need him to put Charles under some pressure. What are we doing here? And then again, this is yesterday. Oscar Piastri, and you recall, this is why this is important, chat. It's chaos. This is why this is important, yeah. You remember, Zach Brown and Andreas Stella said they were going to have a conversation with both of the drivers around the Drivers' Championship, that if Oscar Piastri wins, does Lando mind us celebrating? And vice versa. Now they were the constructors under cloudy circumstances, let's say. Oscar Piastri wasn't happy, and then what are they doing? Celebrating hard, notwithstanding Oscar not being a happy chappy. Roll the clip.
Fans, it might not have been the result we wanted here in Singapore, but we've wrapped up the Constructors' Championship in an incredible way. 6 rounds to go. It's been an amazing year. We've been able to dominate races. We've had a dominant car, and that's all down to, this guy here in the middle, a bit of us, and everyone back in the factory. Over 1,000 people altogether. So incredible. We're the champions. But a big part of that is also down to you cheering us on every weekend, in the fans, in the crowds, wearing all papaya. So thank you very much. We hope you celebrate just as much as the guys and girls in here are going to do. Yes.
I mean, What are we doing here? And that's why, ladies and gentlemen, in the dire nebulous of the Grand Prix, when Zach comes over the radio and wants to say this to Oscar, Oscar just does one of these. Full stop, new paragraph. Roll the clip.
Oscar, back-to-back champions. Good race, tough race. Thank you for...
Stop talking to me, Zach. I've had enough, mate.
Oscar, back-to-back champions. Good race, tough race. Thank you for...
Get away with your chap. I've had enough. I'm sick and tired of Zach Brown, of your unique brand of leadership, and you look like you David Brent just walked off The Office US. I'm not interested in that, and I wouldn't be interested in that. Hearing that makes me feel for Oscar. I empathise with the fella, and I'm not in the car. So what do you think the rest of the F1 world fan base? That's why they're up there. Oscar's not even on a podium, and all they can chant is Oscar, Oscar. Let's hope here this is going to get techie. And here's why I say this, BJS milking. Let me tell you why. This is the payoff. Because Blick today, and this report has been going around for a while, talking about a potential swap deal to Ferrari, inclusive of Oscar Piastri. Now, what we know is that Mark Webber is Oscar Piastri's manager. What we know is that he won't hesitate to pull the trigger if Oscar is happy. If Oscar doesn't feel like he's getting a fair shake of it, that's all he's ever asked of McLaren. Just give me a fair shake and I will do the rest. When they brought the bloody new suspension and suspension geometry accordingly to Lando's car, Oscar said, you know what, it's not even an upgrade. I don't need it. Just give Brennan's an upgrade. Talk to me then. If it's not an upgrade, I don't care. Leave me alone. Let me just give me the car and I will drive it under steer circumstance, whatever. Give all the sexy, nice to drive bits, the traction control-esque upgrades. Give that to Lando. I can crack on. I'll manage it. All he wants, therefore, Oscar Piastri, is a fair shake. But I say all that to say this. Mark Webber is such that his career was such that multi-21 Seb, not bad for a number 2 driver, that if he learns from the mistakes of Christmas past and institutes that within Oscar Piastri's career, what they're not going to do is find themselves as a number 2 driver. I bet that they will have written in Oscar Piastri's contract somewhere that he can't be subjected to the same failings and foibles that his manager Mark Webber was at the hands of full-time champion Sebastian Vettel. Here's why that's important. Alpine, you saw the way that they dealt with Alpine. Again, there were stipulations. It was shades of grey. They effected for a loophole in the contract that allowed them to go across to McLaren and get Oscar Piastri a drive proper in Formula One. Do not think, therefore, if past his prologue, that they wouldn't hesitate on pulling that trigger again and going across to, I don't know, a Scuderia Ferrari where he would be loved, or a McLaren or an Aston Martin or even a Red Bull, where they will build a team around potentially the next one alongside George after Maximilian Verstappen, the one that they call OJP. Blick today, Swiss outlet, and again, all F1 journals are created equally, but some are created more equal than others. OJP left the door open, now it stays open per McLaren for next year. Well, let's see, lazy. So Blick, Swiss outlet, Blick writes that potentially in the offing that there is conversation up and down the paddock about a swap deal between between McLaren and Scuderia Ferrari for their respective charges in OJP and Charles Leclerc. Here's what they said. The Blick report suggests that both Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton are considering their futures at Ferrari next year. Leclerc has recently been linked to Red Bull among other teams. Of course, every man and their dog would be after Charles Leclerc if indeed they could sign him. Everybody knows that point to point he's one of the quickest on the grid, so why wouldn't you be in for Charles Leclerc? It's Charles, it's George, and of course it's Maximilian Verstappen, the leader of the new school in reverse order. Leclerc has recently been linked to Red Bull, blah blah blah. This potentially opens up 2 seats at Ferrari, given the fact that Charles Leclerc, if his team and if he and his team are having conversations with Aston Martin all and sundry, and Lewis Hamilton only has potentially 2 years on his contract. One of those years, the latter of those years, is an option. What happens in 2027, especially if Scuderia Ferrari have built themselves a market-leading purple sector power unit? Well, Blick writes that potentially this opens up 2 seats at Ferrari. The report suggests that while Norris and Piastri are staying at McLaren for 2026, that the 24-year-old Oscar Piastri has already, quote, set his sights on Ferrari for 2027. This would mean, therefore, that Charles Leclerc and also Lewis Hamilton would have to make way, creating a vacancy at F1's most dominant team after just 1 year of the upcoming rules and regs. If Leclerc does decide to leave Ferrari, then there's a chance in 2027, writes this article, that Piastri and Hamilton could be tipped over to humanity. I don't know how much stock to put in this. Chaos. F1 rumour and conjecture, speculation any. But when you hear Charles Leclerc raging, when you see the photos that we looked at the other day, potentially Photoshop and AI, I get it. But the dude was wearing a t-shirt that says Faith. That correlates to Lawrence Stroll's, and that the name of Lawrence Stroll's private yacht. I don't know, chap. I don't know where we go with this, but I wouldn't rule anything out. Because why? Because Murray Walker, the legend that is Murray Walker, always used to say, anything can and usually does happen in Formula One. Why, therefore, if you're Charles Leclerc, would you stay at Ferrari? Why? Why, if you're Oscar Piastri and probably the quickest car still, would you leave McLaren and go to the... It's chaos. I don't know. I'm sure Mark Webber is already looking for options. I think there will be options on the table, Safak. I think they'll want to consider all options and then make a decision accordingly. So, John, too many amazing drivers have been sacrificed to seat number 2, 100%. What's Luigi saying? So if 2026 is good, he'll stay. Cameron did this video for us. But yeah, no, well, we'll see, right? This is not me. I don't make the news. I only cover the news. Sadly, Luigi. Easy G. Rick Oscar. Oscar wouldn't do any better, so that's irrelevant. Hamilton 2+1 deal. Hamilton's option Mercer. I don't believe that, Luigi. I keep seeing, Lewis Hamilton is going to go back to I'm not feeling it. I don't think so. I think he'll retire before he goes back to Mercedes. It's 1 versus 990, John. Are we getting Max Struggles commentary? Go on then, Crackosaurus. Let's round, as we round third base, let's talk about Max. Board again. All right, look, Peter D. Windsor told us earlier on that Max was that drive is one of those. That's for the discerning-eyed amongst you, the ones that can see, the ones that aren't swayed by outcomes and outcomes only. You'll know the fact that 26 laps is how many laps Max had to hold off a fire-breathing dragon in an MCL 3.9 now in its sweet spot. 26 laps. That's how much he needed to hold. That's chaos. Max did quite well yesterday, notwithstanding an RB21, and a circumstance overall that wasn't favourable. I mean, the soft compound tyre was a gamble. I understand why Hannah Schmitz leveraged it. Asymmetric risk take. I get it. I understand what, even though it didn't work out. But sometimes you can't judge the validity of your processes or the reasoning by the outcomes. Sometimes you'll do everything right and it will just turn out wrong. And I think that they did the best with the hand that they were. That ultimately, Maximilian Verstappen could have dropped it on pole, but for Lando Norris, potentially, it would have been close. Whether he would or wouldn't have, we'll never ever know. But it would have been close. That would have been the optimum. Drop it on pole and then run away on the mediums. I don't hate Hannah Schmitz and the Red Bull strategy team for doing what they did and putting Max on soft compound tyres. But even during the race, when you listen to the bloody onboard, shout out Z and Crackosaurus, when you listen to the onboard, Max he's not pleased. The upshift's bothering him. The car won't turn. He's tinkering with brake bias, negative. Like he's struggling with the car properly. So I think the likes of George in the Mercedes and Lando in the McLaren, both of them had lap time on Max, and yet and still Max manages to keep it in he didn't do too badly, Max and stuff. But that Max dude will do well, you know. He's not a bad peddler. He's all right. Luigi, Max is just next level, and the Chris Harris podcast said it perfectly. Yeah, he is. It's funny all of a sudden, Luigi, that people are wise after the fact. There's Damon that's come to the fore. Nico Rosberg is saying it. Brundle's saying it all of a sudden. It feels like every man and their dog are all of a sudden saying it, because I think it's like it's the, you know, like water has a skin. I feel like once you break the skin, the Max Verstappen naysayer skin, then you've got to bring yourself to the light of truth and objectivity. And I think that's where we are now. Max has been too metronomic, too often, too good, too much of the time for people, for rational-minded F1 fans and aficionados to deny it anymore. There's no denying it, because you make yourself look stupid if you do. Do you know what I mean? You self-declare as an F1 abbot of unreason by saying, oh, well, no, Max still is no, not on the back of this year. All of the theories about, oh, Max can't take adversity. Oh, he's a fast car merchant. Well, have you seen? Did you watch Silverstone quali? Did you watch Suzuka? Were you watching Sad? Were you watching Imola turn? What, like, you can't. It's laughable. It is laughable. Anybody that's saying that Max isn't the guy, or isn't at the very least in the conversation to be on the Mount Rushmore of F1, it's you call them out on their nonsense. They sacrifice their integrity card instantly. You lot are blaming the team, and Lando won. Mark Webber is scolding Oscar for letting Lando do that to him. So I don't know what. To be fair to you, EasyG, I don't know what. I don't know. That was a Lando type move, right? Silverstone a couple of years ago when Lewis won, it was speculative and it's uncharacteristic of Oscar to make such a speculative move on Max. Maybe. Listen, Oscar would be an android if the pressure weren't getting to him to a lesser or greater extent. I think that's what we're seeing a little bit, especially when you see the stats. His first 9 races versus the latter 8. Poles, wins upon win. And now all of a sudden the poles are last 8, 2 poles, 1 win. Or 1 pole, I can't remember which. But the stats aren't as metronomic as they had been in the first quarter of the season. So it's going to get... No, Lando's not to blame. Sir John, he isn't to blame. It's McLaren that keep on bloody dropping the managerial ball. The Red Bull was bad at Singapore. You can, always look to the second driver, right, Lazy, if you want to understand how quick or slow that Red Bull car is. Lando was racing, period. I don't hate it, Sir John. I think you're right. I don't hate. He was really good, is the joke. If that Lando had just turned, if Sunday Lando had turned up and replaced Lando Norris, the bod who rocked up on Saturday, 25 points would have been it would have been 2024 all over again, Singapore, right? It would have all been in the bag. So it's just like, I don't know. Yeah, thanks for the extra lights, you're a legend. Most of the criticism is for McLaren, but McLaren doesn't do Lando a favour. So yeah, Lando, you can't really hate on Lando. They will, though, EasyG. And that's why you see the Oscar chance. They will, irrespective. But you shouldn't really, if you're drawing causation dots, you shouldn't really hate on Lando for the treatment that he's getting at McLaren. However, cash rules everything around me. Cream, get the money. And Lando is the prodigal son, isn't he? You can see the glint in Zach Brown's eye when he listens, when he speaks to Lando Norris. He's the guy. He's Mr. Marketing. If you were the commercial guy, if I were Zach Brown and I were engaging in conversations with Google about sponsorship money, I would want Lando Norris to win the championship of the drivers' variety, because he's just much more marketable, a character and a person, and as a look, as a brand, than Oscar. I'm not saying he's a better driver, nor will he be a better driver when all things said and done, when all their careers are full stop, new paragraph, than Oscar even. But I get it. There is something about, I'm not expected to see Oscar Piastri on British Vogue anytime soon. Do you know what I mean? He just doesn't have that. He doesn't, whatever that is, that glint in the eye, that smile, like the catwalk model looks. Oscar Piastri, that's not him, and that's never been him. It will never be him. I don't think he even wants that. If he could push a button and elect to have or not have, he's clicking not have each and every single time. But that's not to say it isn't a thing, especially when you're considering how Zach looks at his drivers. He will understand that in Lando Norris there is upside financially for the team, for McLaren, but it's commercial state. He's just much more he's more marketable. I think that's just a fact, and I mean an irrefutable one. That's why you're not going to see Oscar on any British Vogues anytime soon. I don't think you'd want to. That's the problem. We all see what McLaren is and has done. but they act like it's not the case. They need to, Sir John. There needs to be a Shakespearean level of false seeming to it. Because if they came, can you imagine they came out and said, you know what? Can you imagine if Zach Brown came out and said what I've just said? To be fair, lads and ladies, Lando, we could do with Lando winning because he's much more commercially viable than Oscar. And so as far as like, do you know what I mean? As far as Monaco, of course we're going to egg on Oscar to protect Lando from Charles Leclerc. Of course we're going to overemphasize the Papaya rules to Oscar more than we are Lando, because Lando is just more commercially viable. They're never going to say that. They couldn't. We could never. They get destroyed in the press and media, but I think Zach has the wrong sponsors, wrong mentality, but potentially Oscar. But you know what? Credit to Zach, because they were going to go under a couple of years ago because they didn't have finances. They didn't have the appropriate level of fight. They couldn't get sponsors. You've seen it on Drive to Survive, right? That they were having Google Chrome were having conversations with them like, well, when are you going to deliver? When are we going to start seeing more visibility of our sponsors with you guys on the podium, etc.? So I don't know. I think I've got to give Zach Brown some credit for keeping the McLaren heads above water, but that's lazy. Dustin from Stranger Things. It kind of is what it is, isn't it? Commerciality, viability. I always have this conversation with Peter, right, that there is if you don't do that as a CEO, if you're not looking, I understand you guys are all racers, grey of beard, just like myself, but if as a CEO, as a C-suite exec level bod, if you're not looking after the share price, then that's called fiduciary malfeasance. You can lose your job for that as a C-suite guy, like a CEO, COO, as like a chair or a non-executive director. Your very job is to increase shareholder value. So if you see in a Lando Norris, and again I'm arguing devil's advocate, now desperate am I for OJP to win it, but if you see shareholder value in a Lando Norris win and the British Vogue, and he can go to Met Gala and rock up to like David Letterman or Jimmy Kimmel or whoever it is in a way that Oscar Piastri never will, because 18 to 35-year-old women don't fawn over Oscar like they will over Lando. If you see and understand that, then to not lean into it is a form of fiduciary malfeasance, I think. I think we've just explained what's going on here. I think maybe I'm connecting dots that shouldn't be connected by F1 apophonia, potentially, but I think those are the wheres and the whys and the hows of this McLaren pseudo-favoritism at the altar of Lando Norris. I will be back tomorrow, same time, same place, 10 a.m. British, 8 p.m. in the evening. You guys are legends, one and all. I appreciate each and every single one of you to the moon, and I make no apologies for labouring that point. Sir John, Liam, Sir Charles Edward Cheese, appreciate each and every single one of you to the meet. So to gifted memberships. If you're a brand new member, get yourself over to the old Discord community tab. There is a Discord link on there. Let's continue the conversation there. F1 modes of discourse each and every single time. Between now and next time, the prosecution rests. No further questions, Your Honour.